Alright, now I have my timing belt and water pump removed. Here's the old water pump, and here's the old timing belt. My timing belt looks pretty good, as well as the water pump, but it's good to replace them to be safe anyway. So the next step, I already have the new seal fitted in the new water pump. So I took a razor blade and I cleaned around where the seal goes on the engine. You should do the same because you may have corrosion or contaminants around there. And then after that, you'll want to wipe the whole surface clean with a rag, and then you can just put on your new water pump and bolt it in. For mine, I have 5 bolts. I have these 4 little ones, and then I have a big one that goes to the alternator bracket over there. First, I'm going to put in the little bolts, and I'm going to tighten them in a cross pattern sequence, and then I'll tighten this one last, I suppose. And after that, I'll put on the new timing belt and I can start putting everything back together. Alright, I now have my water pump installed and I'm ready to install the timing belt. Before you install your water pump, you may have to apply liquid gasket to the gasket the water pump comes with. I believe for some vehicles you have to do that. For mine, I don't have to do that. It just comes with a rubber gasket, so it just goes in there with no problem. Alright, so another note I want to make is when you install your water pump, it's a good idea to take your bolts and apply a drop of oil to the threads. You don't want to get the oil on the surface of the bolt. Like, I'll use this bolt as an example. You get the oil on the threads, not on the surface up here, and that'll prevent the bolt from rusting in there, so next time you have to change the water pump, they won't seize or break off or anything. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bottom of the timing belt on the crankshaft timing belt pulley. Then I'm going to wrap it around the tensioner, wrap it around the water pump, and then I'm going to pull the belt tight up this way and then fit it onto this. You'll want to make sure that, of course, your camshaft pulley and the crankshaft pulley are aligned with their marks, and you'll want to make sure that the belt is tight on them. Mine goes straight right here, so I'm going to make sure it's very tight in that straight line, so that way it won't get out of timing if it's too loose or anything. So I'll do that now. Alright, now I have my timing belt on, and this is how it goes for mine. You'll want to make sure that your timing belt is on all the pulleys correctly. Make sure everything's straight and that it's not hanging off on the pulleys or too far back. And after you have your timing belt on, the next thing will be to tension it. And another thing, when you're putting on the timing belt, it's a good idea to push that tensioner, loosen the bolt on the tensioner and push it back, and then tighten the bolt on it, so that way it's easier to get the belt on. And after you have the belt on, what you got to do is rotate the crankshaft a few times, and then loosen the bolt on the tensioner. And you do this while you're keeping tension on the crankshaft, a turning tension in the direction that it spins. So mine's I'll be holding the crank pulley in a counterclockwise motion, and I won't be turning it, but I'll be holding it in that sort of a position so that there'll be tension on this, and then I'll release the bolt on the tensioner about 180 degrees and then retighten it, so that way it'll take the extra slack off the belt. And after I do that, my manual says that you're supposed to turn the crankshaft clockwise about 4 to 6 times, which is strange. I don't know why they would want it in that direction, since the crankshaft spins in a counterclockwise motion, but it says that that's so that it'll fit on all the pulleys correctly. So I'll do that, and then I will turn the crankshaft counterclockwise until I get it to TDC again, and then do the same thing, put tension on the crankshaft pulley, and then loosen the tensioner bolt and retighten it. And after I do that, I'll just start putting everything back together. Another thing, make sure that you don't lose this little key that's for the crankshaft pulley. And this is another important thing on my engine. This goes on the crankshaft, and then this goes over it. And you want to make sure you have this on the right direction. It's not completely straight. It kind of has a dip, so you want to make sure that it's facing out like this. You don't want it that way on the crankshaft, or else it can like hit against the timing belt. This helps to keep the timing belt on. Now I have my lower timing belt cover on, and the main pulley, or the harmonic balancer as it's also called. Yeah, I have the bolt on the harmonic balancer tightened and everything. Alright, the way I tighten the bolt on my crankshaft pulley is I got this breaker bar. I put the end of the breaker bar up against this lower control arm up here, and then I just turn the key real quick to turn the engine over real fast, and that allowed the bolt to tighten up. That's not exactly the proper way to do it, but I had to improvise since I don't have the right tools. If you do it like how I did it, make sure your spark plug wires are out so that the engine won't start. And you may not be able to do that with your engine. It really depends. With the older Civics like what I got, with the way the engine spins and the bolt, you know, how everything's put together, you're able to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the engine and make sure that the engine sounds right. Make sure that the engine's in time and everything. And I could see if there's any problems before I put everything back together. And right now I'm going to run the engine dry for a couple seconds, and after I confirm that everything is okay, then I'm going to fill it with coolant and start it again to make sure there's no leaks around the water pump.